Welcome to Through the Eyes of a Maine Guide. Every journey holds a story. By sharing the wisdom of those who came before us, we keep their legacy alive for generations to come. Join me, Brennan Lane, as we explore the wild through the eyes of a Maine Guide. Welcome back to another episode of Through the Eyes of a Maine Guide with your host, Brennan Lane. And today we're back down in Grand Lake Stream at the Grand Lake Lodge with Steve Schaefer as our guest today. Thanks for coming aboard, Steve.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So, if you don't mind, give us a little background about yourself. And
I'm to begin with, I'm 75 years old, so you got to know the timeline here. But back in the day, I pined to live in a place like Grand Lake Stream, and our Bible at the time was Outdoor Life. And I used to read the back of the where the ads were, which always fascinated me, all the lodges and the camps and the fishing opportunities. And I dreamed about, spending, we were living outside of Boston at the time, and I said, boy, wouldn't I love to have a summer job up at one of these places. And my parents thought I was nuts, but I wrote letters to a place here in Grand Lake Stream and a flying service in Greenville and said, do they ever hire high school kids? I never heard from the service in Greenville, but I heard from a lodge here in Grand Lake Stream, which no longer exists. But they said, yes, we have high school kids, and why don't you come up and give it a shot? And sure enough, I came up for a 2-week trial and living right on the stream and fishing every night and moving boats and fishing every day and mowing the lawn and fishing every night, and it was just magical for me. And I basically never left. I mean, I tried college, and that didn't work so hot. This place was always, I knew I wanted to be here the rest of my life. So I wasn't born here, but I got here as quick as I could. And I was encouraged to get my guide's license as soon as possible, and I did in 1971. And at the time, I took it through the window of a pickup truck with the game warden quizzing me. And my trick question, of course, people go through a lot more now, but my trick question, which I flunked, was how many shots can you have in an automatic rifle? And I said 5. And they said, wrong, 6. 1 in the chamber, 5 in the magazine. So that's a trick question. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I married a school teacher here that taught in Baileyville, Woodland, which was one of the smarter moves I ever made in my life. But I also fell in love with taking people fishing, and I did some hunting, but basically I was all about fishing. And I have done it since then, and when I retired from my other life, which was photography, I started doing more and more as kind of a retirement gig, and have done, I'm starting to tail off now, making way for the new blood, but I've supported the guiding industry in any way I can, tirelessly working for access, and we're donors to the Maine Education Fund, Maine Guides Education Fund, trying to get young people involved, teach them the ethics and the beauty of showing people what we have here. And I have been all over the United States, and my family has been, and I've fished all over the United States. And one of the most respected pieces of paper that I can find from all my interviews and talking with guides and other fishermen is the Maine Guide's license. And I've got lots of stories that tell you how far that gets you around the world. So I'm proud to be a guide. I'm now a lifetime. They give me my license. I kind of feel they should give the young people a license and charge me, but anyway, and that's I've enjoyed it. It's one of the few jobs you can come home, you feel just as good as when you left in the morning. That's the way I feel. So
it sounds like you lived the dream that most dream to live.
I did. I made a conscious effort to, give up probably a higher paying job somewhere, but I lost my father when I was 16 to a corporate world, and I said, I'm not going to do that. And I came here to fix that, and it's pretty much.
And that seems to be a going thing over the last bunch of interviews that we've done. There is like everyone said the same thing. It's like you're either all in or you're not in at all.
Yeah.
Like, and you got to leave that. You got to leave behind that fear of not having a check come tomorrow.
Yeah.
But it's a lifestyle. We're chasing a lifestyle. We're not chasing the money. Like the people that go to corporate and that stuff, they're chasing money, not the lifestyle.
Yeah.
Where we're chasing, it's complete opposite. We're chasing the lifestyle that we live.
We're doing what they would want to be doing.
Yeah,
For 50 weeks out of the year, we're doing it.
exactly.
And they're dreaming about it to do 2 weeks. So
Yep. Yeah, they're picking their vacation to come do what we do for a living.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
our vacations that we're picking are everyday life that we live.
yeah. I mean, I just have a passion, sometimes an embarrassing passion for watching people catch fish, and this is a tremendous fishery we have here, which offers that opportunity. And I'm sorry to see the end of but it's time. It's time for me to pass the baton, and I'm working with younger guides and trying to, coast to the finish line here. But I'll never forget the days I spent in this beautiful area.
You kind of mentioned something that's interesting, and it's a question that I get asked a lot by clients, and I know a bunch of other people do. They're like, you don't hunt yourself or you don't fish yourself much? And like to me, and like my answer is no. I kill one deer, I'm done, and one bear you tagged out, or a moose, or you catch your limit or whatever. But to me, it's watching all these other people and being a part of all these other trips and memories that are made that I could care less about harvesting one myself. If I can bring 10 kids out and watch them take and do it all, like that to me is more rewarding than me pulling the trigger or me catching my limit or the once in a lifetime fish, is watching them take and do it and succeed at it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I guess that's in the DNA of a Maine guide, is being able to do that and look forward to the next day and doing it again. And,
like day 14 for us might be day one for the people that just arrived, but that's day 14 for us. So like we're living this stuff day in, day out, and that's every day is a different day.
Yeah, like one of my favorite. It's a Maine guide's job is to create a little bit of yesterday every day.
100% true.
Yeah, yeah.
So you mentioned that you're in like photography and that stuff. Was that What was that about for you?
It was strictly a business proposition. I started taking pictures of birds and beaver, but in order to pay the bills, we had to get into a people photography business, which I did, and worked all over the state. And then I sold that business in 2010. But all the while, I kept guiding. No matter what year it was, I always took 2 weeks, 3 weeks, sometimes more. I owned the business, so I had control. And kept my licenses, kept my equipment, kept my relationships. And so when I sold the business, it was just, we're glad you're available again. Let's go. I mean, before I bought the business, I worked full-time as a guide, deer hunting as well as fishing. And then I coasted mostly with fishing until I retired sold my business, and then I started guiding as much as I could comfortably.
So have you seen a change, which I'm sure you have, which way or the other, but like when you just mentioned you used to guide deer and guide fishing, have you seen like the change in like the age structure and the like those family groups or that stuff that's starting to come now, or less, or?
Well, it depends on the time of year. We have a hardcore fishermen that come in April and May and first part of June. And they are multi-generational, but not a lot of families then. They're the fishermen. They're the ones that put up with the rich variety of insect life we have. And have tremendous, topwater fishing and spring fishing. And then we get the families later in the year, and that's a blast. And we have lots of white perch and bass that are easy to catch, and we even have a trout pond down here in the middle of town that's stocked with trout from the hatchery.
Oh, really?
Fish for kids,
For
15
kids?
and under, yeah. And and they have a blast down there. So we encourage families to come throughout the year, and they usually are involved around summer vacation. And then in the fall, it goes back to it's really kind of underappreciated here. A lot of our guides end up working for bear hunters, so we could use more fishing guides in September, for instance. And that's when these bass go on crazy eating binges, and they get beautiful, and it's beautiful weather, and it's not as crowded. And of course, then the salmon start to come back up with the weather and come back into the stream, and then that all ends towards the end of October. But I've kind of not. I've been out of the hunting business except for personal use, just for several reasons, and I enjoy. For me, the deer season's 30 days long, and I want to hunt. So I'm selfish that way now.
Hey guys, shout out to Northwoods Outdoor Supply, proud sponsor of Through the Eyes of a Maine Guide podcast. If you guys find yourself in Aroostook County and need any ammunition, firearms, fishing supplies, or any outdoor supplies in general, swing in and see what they have. They have a large variety of firearms, ammunition, ice fishing supplies, regular fishing supplies, and just outdoor supplies in general. Stop in and talk to Brandon. If you don't have it, I'm sure he can get it for you. They're located right in the Martin's Plaza next to Martin's and Tractor Supply. So make sure you stop in and show your support and say hi. You must have some good deer stories, or at least one you'd want to share, eh?
Well, yeah, okay. So I'm on foot. A bunch of us used to hunt the Fourth Machias Lake area. You've probably heard the name David Toby, but I was part of his crowd out there. And we would hike miles and miles of roadless country to hunt deer. And this was before coyotes were in Maine, so we had a healthy deer herd out there, old burnt land and not much public access because of the lack of roads. So we would hike and hike and hike, and then one morning I'm beating around the bush there, and I look up, and on top of this beautiful knoll, backlit, is this marvelous looking buck deer. And I said, geez, this is my chance. I had an old 35 Remington with a peep sight, and I put it right behind his front shoulder and let it fly. And man, he was out of there. So I go back up real close. I'm looking at where he was standing, and I'm looking and waiting, and I don't, I hear something, and here comes this deer from the right. I shot, he went left. He comes from the right, and I shoot one from the hip, thought right behind his forward shoulder, and he keeps going. And I go down and say, I know I hit that deer. I know I did, but he just kept moving. And so I followed him, and bang, I looked up, and there was this big rack sticking out dead. And I had fired and hit him the first time, right behind a killing shot, but somehow he got that burst, and made a circle and came back, and I shot from the hip. And both entry holes were the same.
Really?
Yeah, and the angle was such that the exit holes were about an inch apart on the other side. So that's my trick shot.
Your trick shot.
From the hip. But it was a beautiful deer, and at the time we had these Adirondack deer carriers with a bicycle wheel, because we had no access, and no four-wheelers then, nothing like that. And we'd load them up on these ladders, and pneumatic tires, and bounce them all the way back to camp. And that was a 200-pound deer. So, but two people could move it efficiently.
Mm-hmm. Now, with your experience, do you see, like back then, like with the weather conditions and that stuff, was there more snow? Like, did you guys have ample opportunity to track back then compared to now?
Yeah, tracking snow seemed to be more, you'd have to wait for it sometimes later in the season. Usually by Thanksgiving you could figure on a tracking snow. And so but most of the time, if I had the time and I was hunting, I'd be tagged out, so I wouldn't have I'd
So
go out.
you didn't wait for the snow. You took
Sometime,
your advantage and went.
yeah, right. But no, and prior to the coyotes coming in, we had a healthy deer population that was vibrant, and the town was full. That affected us a lot when the deer herd went down. It affected the economy of the town, the guiding, but it was something, and we tried various, we asked the state we'd take a year off if that would solve it.
Mm-hmm.
They said no, that wasn't socially acceptable, so we went to bucks only, and it's coming back. It's we're slowly clawing our way back. The deer are learning to live with the coyotes again, and
No,
so
for everybody listening that might not know that coyotes were introduced, as you want to call it, to Maine, that was. Do you remember the time frame of when they first come here?
I shot a, I shot one of the first coyotes during deer season in 1976.
1976. So I mean, we've evolved almost 60 years
Yeah.
now with the coyotes being here.
Right, and they had come from the western part of the state, and those first wave of coyotes were brutal. I mean, they were the alpha coyote, right? Oh, great hunters, great looking animals, but boy, could they, lay waste. And they weren't just killing deer; they were killing beaver, and all our game here wasn't familiar with something like that.
They went in. They went in and they just splurged on the open buffet and.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, yeah.
But now though there's plenty of people around. Like I know Paul and David and all them guys. They hunt coyotes quite actively throughout the wintertime.
Yep.
You trappers and that stuff keep them in check. That
Yeah.
we're never gonna get it back, so we don't have coyotes.
That's right.
But we can keep them in check.
We
so
can.
that way all the populations of all the other animals are healthy, balanced, and in check as well.
Right. Yeah, and they're a fact of life now, and these guys do a great job with their dogs. I mean, that's fascinating. So anything, that will help. We have night hunters, and so yeah, it's become part of life. That's the way it is.
It's good to see though. Like you talk to across the whole state, a bunch of the older generation that you talk to pretty much had the same story that you just shared, that before the coyotes were here, the deer were everywhere. And now, like, they're kind of seeing it come full circle where the deer are starting to come back and we're starting to get that rebound of what the old style deer camp was like.
Well, and my favorites, the deer were so stupid back then because they only get hunted at 30 days out of the year. Now they're hunted 365 days out of the year, and they got a lot smarter. Yeah.
All right. So the local history from around here, like back then, this was a logging town. I'd say logging town. Like they did the log drives and that stuff on the rivers,
Right.
and there was a tannery or
Right.
something of that sort. Correct, with all the hemlock.
Right. The hemlock. This is a hemlock forest. Naturally, that's the way it is. And the method for tanning hides at the time was to use the hemlock bark and get the tannic acid off and tan the hides. Well, so there was a huge tannery here in town. I don't know if any of Paul's pictures show it, but it employed hundreds of people. We had a population of 400 here. This is around the turn of the century. And the hides would come by train and by ox cart and boat and ferry up from Big Lake to town here where the tannic acid would be used to tan the hides. And so the town was vibrant. They actually had a power plant where we had electricity in Grand Lake Stream around the turn of the century, courtesy of the tannery, the Shaw Brothers Tannery. Well, some disruptor figured it was easier to take the tannic acid to where the hides were than to bring the hides to where the tannic acid was. So overnight, the tannery closed. Unemployment went rampant. They shut down the electricity. They left town, and the only people left were the people who had been guiding hunting and fishing during that time. So that's where this is it. This is what we're going to do. And they took some of the old tannery houses and made sporting camps out of them. If you go look around town, you'll see company housing. There's a simple pitched roof house that you'll see everywhere. And those are the old Tannery houses.
The old Millbrook
company houses.
Yep.
Right, yeah. But people started coming by train, by hook or by crook. But we had no electricity until the 50s, the rural electrification push. And so we were one of the last communities to get electricity via that route. So one of the bragging rights of Grand Lake Stream is we were one of the first towns in Maine to have electricity and one of the last. So
you look at it that way, yeah.
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 And so the town evolved from there, taking care of clientele from all over the world. Famous people came here to fish. General Doolittle, Bob Smith, Howdy Doody, just a bunch of Ted Williams, all that. Mm-hmm. So we got a reputation for this hospitality that we have here, and that's where we're trying to, maintain that industry and the guides and the fishery and the fish and game that goes with it. And we're fortunate to be in a good spot here in this corner with the conservation of the land and the open access and the ability to follow most of the policies around here evolve whatever the state of Maine deems to be legal is legal on these lands. Nobody makes their own fish and wildlife laws here. None of the landowners do. Mm-hmm. Now, there's some road closures for mud and stuff like that, but after that, they let our fish and wildlife team decide what we can do on our land. So it's a great environment for people that are looking to do this and learn, and it's a good living. We get paid fairly. Mm-hmm. Although it's not as high as some other places in the United States.
It's an honest living, though.
Yeah. So, and I've hired guides. I do this. I don't tell them I'm a guide, mm-hmm. but I'm convinced. We're the best.
It shows from just the people I've interacted with the last couple of days of being down here, whether it's at the store or in town or whatever. That people here they take guiding, especially fishing, too hard, serious. This is their lifestyle. This is what they live.
Right.
And you can see it. Like I said, just by being in town for about 2 days now. Yeah. Everyone you talk to, this is their passion. This is a guiding community.
Yeah.
It's not just a town with a few outfits in it. It's a guiding community. Yeah. Everyone here guides one way, shape, or form or another. It seems
I think we have the highest per capita number of registered Maine guides in the state of Maine for the population. Rangeley comes in close second, mm-hmm. I think. But.
Well, you look at, now that you said that, you get Rangeley, you got here, and you got Moosehead. Those really are the three destination fishing places there is, in the state of Maine, in my opinion. If you want to go for native brookies, and salmon and stuff like that, that's the geographical region where you're going to go.
Yeah.
And when you say that, it makes sense. That's where 99% of your fishing guides are in one of them three locations.
Right. Yeah. So it's a badge of honor to be a registered Maine guide, and I'm pleased to support them in any way I can. So.
Now, you mentioned something earlier that was kind of funny there when you were talking about the mill town. On one side of the river, there was always
right. Yes, and this is common in all mill towns in Maine, and this was a mill town. It was a tannery town, but a river often bisected the community because, for obvious reasons, the mills always wanted to be on a source of water. So the management would live on one side of the river, and the grunts, the blue collar, would live on the other side of the river, and the other side was always called Tough End. And it didn't matter if you were in Orono, Old Town, or Grand Lake Stream. We were across the river, you were in Tough End. And also over there were boarding houses and characters. They said, I live on Tough End, and they say the closer to the end of the road you are, the tougher you am, and I live on the very end. and they were roughnecks, but the boarding house used to draw interest from the white-collar workers on the other side of the river, And this was before bridges and good dams. Often the dams were crude; you couldn't walk across them, so they would have to ford the river in order to socialize on Tough End. And that also was a source of discomfort for the wives of the management when they would come back knowing they had been somewhere when their bottom of their trousers were soaking wet. So
Back then, they didn't have dryers that they could throw their pants in either.
They probably tried to hide them in different ways, but I wasn't around for that. So to this day, our road is called Tough End.
So you live on the tough end now.
Yeah,
Right?
but I don't live on the end.
Oh, so you're not the toughest over there. Yeah. Now we was talking about like you cat hunted with dogs, or whether you had dogs yourself, but you was involved in that like in the early days.
I had retrievers for waterfowl, but I've always been fascinated by the hounds and their desire to do whatever they do. And during my photography days, I would accompany these guys on bear hunts and cat hunts, and just to photograph it. I mean, and I often hope that the new GPS technology doesn't take away from the voice of the hounds. I don't think it will, because they're...
So we had a discussion with this. I think with Dale Toby yesterday, actually. And we were talking about that. And, like, you still have the through and through people that are houndsmen. But now you get people that are calling themselves a houndsman because they can afford to buy a $10,000 GPS system and throw a truck in. And they're buying their dogs and that stuff, which I don't want to say it's taken away, but it's made it now so anybody can jump in the game. Because back in the day, I mean, when I started doing it, we just had telemetry collars. And you literally walked around, you beep, beep, beep. And before that, they didn't have any calls. Like, you went on foot. It was
the voice. The dogs were trained to signal you, you know?
And that is, like, that's still a thing. But, like, I'm right there with you. Like, I feel that technology is making it slowly disappear.
But it won't affect. I mean, I think the dogs still want to bark.
Oh yeah, the dogs still want to bark.
Yeah,
like
and that's I would hope that they would figure out. Oh, I don't have to bark so loud because I got this thing around my neck.
I don't. The dogs are smart, but I don't think that that's smart. More or less, it goes back to like the handle of the human, because
I think
like
the voice of those hounds is a remarkable. You know, why they were built to do that is just fascinating.
And like me and Dale said, like for us to sit there on a cold fall morning and park the truck and let the dogs go and be able to hear that race from a mile, 2 miles away, just to sit there, like that's what it's about, is like to listen to the voice and like just listen to the dogs. And a lot of people, they get, well, their dog's barking. Well, every one of my dogs, I can tell you by their bark what they're doing and what dog that it is.
Yeah.
And it amazes people that, well, how can you do that? Well, they're no different than humans. We all have a different voice. Yeah. We raise a voice, lower a voice, and we have that different tone to it. Well, the dogs are the same way. Each dog is different. And when you spend time with them as much as we do in the woods, like, you know them. I mean, I joke around that sometimes I'm with my dogs more than I am my wife and my kids this time of year. Yeah. You know, like they are my kids. Like, I'm with them every single day for 8-10 hours a day. Yeah. You know, and there's a lot that goes into that, and it's nice to see as not as a houndsman that you can appreciate the sound of the hound.
Oh God, I think
it's nice to hear.
I can hear. We have they keep the bulk of their dogs during the season up on this special thing, this kind of a doggyville we call it.
Yeah.
But it's within earshot of my house, and I can hear them when they feed them in the morning and pick them up, and it's music.
That's one thing. We walk out to load the dogs up in the morning, and all of ours are in. We got a big kennel there inside of a barn, and as soon as they hear them dog leashes rattling on the dog box, I mean, 300 yards away, when I start my truck up at the house at 3:30 in the morning, I mean, the whole barn lights up. And it's just like, you go out there and it's a beautiful sound. Like, you can't even hear yourself think inside the barn when they're all going crazy there, but it's just the excitement that they have.
Yeah, and it's a big component here Paul hires a bunch of guides for this fall, and a couple of other hunters do it independently, but it's a big deal. It's good money. They do it ethically. And they go fishing. You know, they tag out early. They'll go white perch fishing or something. So we have a lot to offer, and these guys do a great job with it. So I'm glad they're here and taking it seriously. It's important to us.
Do you have any interesting stories, like as when you've tagged along on a few of these like exciting events that?
Uh, well, well, so
I'm laughing because I know you
what?
told one earlier
All
there. I'm
right.
just
Well,
waiting
I'll
for you
tell
to
that
say
one. Yeah.
it.
This involves we were one of the best cat hunters in the state of Maine back in the day was named Ash Peasley. He was a forest ranger out of Topsfield. He was legendary. And he taught his student ranger, whose name is Roger Milligan, who you will be interviewing later today. He taught him how to cat hunt. And Roger's an absolutely terrific woodsman and dog lover, houndsman. And he had a notorious blue tick named Blaze, who was hell on cats, and we wanted to photograph a cat hunt. So he said, "Come along," and he was stationed in Topsfield at the time. Beautiful winter day, one of those bluebird, blue sky, deep blue, fresh snow, and sure enough, we cut a track off of Route One, right between Orient and Topsfield, and Big Tom, and we took it, and we had backpacks with our cameras. This is still cameras, and that dog did the beautiful. We could hear it, although not as well as you can in the fall because of the fresh snow. We had to keep following the track. But that cat tired out. It was big enough. It tired out fairly quickly, and fortunately for us, it went up this beautiful dead snag of a cedar, and against the blue azure sky was this giant tom. He was almost falling asleep in the sunlight up there, and the dog was, just trying to climb the tree. And so Roger had a single shot 16 gauge he carried with him everywhere cat hunting. He shot the cat, and it tumbled down, and the dog just went crazy, mauled it, and he let him do it as a little reward, I guess, for treeing the cat. But this dog was mean, and we got the cat away from it, put it in a pack basket, and we lugged it back to the car. And we threw the cat inside the trunk, and by this time it was noontime, and Roger was in the front seat with my photography partner, Steve Takish, and I was in the back seat with Blaze, the notorious cat dog. And I pulled out a bologna sandwich to have for lunch, and that dog stuck its nose right in my face and drooling and fangs. And I said, "Roger, what do I do?" He says, "Give him the sandwich." I did.
That was your plea deal with him to leave you alone.
So you could tell him I told that story. But that was, and that picture we had was priceless. It's one of my favorites. But
See, like you said something there that amazes me. It's like nowadays everyone's about they need the best hunting rig, they need the best looking truck with the best looking dog box and all this stuff. And here you are talking about how you guys went out and doing all this cat hunting and this stuff, and you come back and you threw the cat in the trunk, and the dog's sitting in the back seat of this old car that
yeah, it was an old sedan.
Yeah, sedan. You guys are beating around in the middle of winter, where now people won't even go out unless they got a 4-wheel drive truck that's all jacked up and everything else. There, it's just it goes to show, like, to get back to the grassroots, you don't need all that stuff to have fun and enjoy it and be successful.
Yeah, and we've seen that in everything we do here. Ice fishing. You used to snowshoe up, pick a hole with a hand chisel and fish, and now it's watium
ion battery augers.
You get 5 holes in 90 seconds.
Yeah.
So, times have changed that way. But
it's amazing how everything's evolved, though.
Yeah, and the other benefit of this area, even more so than Rangeley's close, Moosehead maybe, but is the water. We have 22 different bodies of water we can fish for the day. Without staying overnight, just
right from this location,
right from Grand Lake Stream. So it enables us to pick all the weather is a factor, and people and fisheries, and we have warm water lakes, cold water lakes. So it's a real benefit to this corner of Maine is we're 80% water. I don't know if you've ever flown over it, but it's It's 80% water.
So we was looking at the map the other day there, and when we got down here, and that was the first thing that we said. We was talking to Paul about, like, there's water down here. Like, this is all there is. Like, this is just like a giant bog. It looks like on the map because you just see water after water after water.
Yeah.
And then like we talked to Brian a little bit, and he was explaining how, like, with the trust there, they got 91. I think it's 91 miles of water frontage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, 91 miles of water frontage in a little area. That's a lot of water frontage.
Yeah, it's legit.
You know, it's kind of baffling, like, because like I'm born and raised in Maine my whole life, Central Maine, and we bought the place up in Allagash. And like even in the time then, like you heard about Allagash and that stuff, but until we got there, like we didn't realize like the importance of the Allagash River and like all that stuff. And then being up there and be like, wow, you know, you found a place. And like, then we get down here the other day, and I told Paul, I was talking to Paul, I said, I didn't realize there's any other place in Maine that's like Allagash. And this is like the down east version of northern Maine and Allagash. I said, we got 3.8 million acres of land at our access to the North Maine woods, but you guys got ponds after ponds after ponds. Like this is like the fishing capital to where to go, because you could guide almost. Well, you said 21, 22 bodies of water. Yeah. You got that many days straight and not even be on the same body of water every day.
Oh, yeah. And like, we're at the end of a 10-mile road, so people that come to Grand Lake know what they're getting into. They just don't stop and say, oh, Grand Lake Stream. No, they have to know about it, have heard about it, and they, you know, and in my travels, I'll say Grand Lake Stream, and they'll either know it and love it, or say, well, where's that, you know? But it's a destination for people that know what they want. Yeah. It makes it a lot easier.
You said it well. You're not just going to stumble upon this place. Like, I mean, driving down here, and we're driving. Like when I got here, I went past the road over there, and I ended up going over on the dirt road over there, and I'm like, where am I supposed to turn? I come back, and you just got that little funky four-way intersection, you want to call it there, and like that's the hub of town.
Yeah.
And every place we've been, whether it's here at Paul's or it's at the land trust or the store or whatever, as a crow flies, we've been within half a mile. Every major place we've been is a half a mile of each other. Like everything's right there. Like everything's within walking distance really here.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're not, if you drive through town, you blink. Next thing you know, you're gonna be out in the middle of the woods. Like you better be awake when you're here. You know that it's here. You're gonna be gone.
Yeah. There's a great song written by Randy Spencer called "One Road In," and it's about that road and what Grand Lake Stream means.
So he actually wrote it about this?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll have to see.
One Road In.
See if we can't pull that up online there and find it.
Yeah.
Was he from here, Randy?
No, he's a transplant, but he became a guide and he likes to write. He's written books and stuff.
But he's here, like he lived here at one point in time, though.
He did. He actually lived on the very end of Tough End.
Oh, really? Is that why he got to make the song?
Hey, Al here. I just want to take a minute to talk about our wool gear. Our Big Woods Bucks wool gear it's the best value there is on the market. We have 100% virgin wool clothing, whether it's our packs, pants, jackets, whatever. The virgin wool it's the natural fiber from the sheep, and it wraps into a tight thread. That's what makes it waterproof, pretty much wind resistant, and comfortable to wear. It's quiet for hunting, especially in the big woods. You can't find anything better than wool clothing. So we have ours. It's all made in USA with all U.S. accessories and everything. We've got years of experience guiding, and it's thought that's going into this stuff. So we've tried to keep the average hunter in mind and kept the price point at where people can afford it. We hope you enjoy it. Wear your woolies. Cotton is death.
So, we've discussed a wide variety of things here. Is there anything recommendations or suggestions you would like to give, like someone starting out that wants to guide for a living?
Well, I think you'll either know it or not. I mean, I've known guides that did everything they had to do, rigged up, and they went, and it just wasn't for them. And some that probably shouldn't be guides, but the ones that I work with here, they love it. They knew immediately that this is what they wanted to do. So I think it's either part of you or it isn't. I don't think you can make yourself be a guide.
No.
I think you're born one. And if you're able to take advantage of that in any way, whether it's hounds, hunting, even like Wayne Hockmeyer, who explored the whitewater world. Mm-hmm. He knew he wanted to do that, so it was meant to be. And Paul with his dogs and his camps, he knew he showed up here as a kid. His eyes were that big around. We knew he was going to be a guide, yeah. And he wasn't going to vary. He's done everything he has to do to maintain that professionalism. So I guess you have to go out and try it and see if it's something you want to do. My daughter got her whitewater guide's license over in the Forks, and she loved it, and she was really good at it. And that was something she wanted to do, and she took it with her out west, and they said, what's your experience? And they said, I have a Maine whitewater guide's license. You come with me. And she's done rivers out there because of that piece of paper and her desire. So it leads to not just being in Maine guiding, it leads you to a nationwide reputation that will open doors for you. Mm-hmm. I don't know, have you been to Alaska?
No, I want to go.
Well, there's a kinship between Maine and Alaska that is remarkable, and they treat, I would treat an Alaskan like gold if they showed up in town here, and the same is true. They think we go through the same kind of lifestyle mm-hmm. they do, the winters, the bugs, and all that. So it's not only your immediate everyday life, it carries with you throughout your life. I'm going to die a Maine guide, and I'm very proud of that.
It's true, and just by some of the things that you've talked about and you said, you can tell guide is your passion.
Yeah.
The Maine Guides Education Fund. When you was talking about that, a lot of people don't realize what that is, and we're pushing to get that out there more now.
Great, yeah.
I think this spring there we changed the leadership roles. I'm now the president of the education fund as well. And you get Chris Richards as the treasurer, and the Don Dudleys and them, they're starting to step down and pass the torch on, which is amazing. What those guys have done for the organization is incredible.
Yeah.
And what you got now is the younger version of me and say Chris Richards and Brandon Bishop and Steve Wilcox and them. We're pushing this to the next level now to bring it forward with social media. With at the Moose Festival there this year, we had a tent set up and educational and getting kids involved and saying, hey, we offer this if you guys want to go to summer camp or the Junior Maine Guides, send us this letter for saying why you want to do it, and then we send out the grant application where this year, I can't remember what the exact numbers were this year, but we covered almost the full price of a camp for the summer camps. The guide camp we couldn't, that's almost a $4,000 camp, but the regular camps, we covered almost a full thing for everyone that sent the letter in.
Wow.
To go to the summer camps. And our goal and mission with that is to get it to the point where we have so many people coming in that we can't give out. We don't have enough money to take and give out. We want it so we get 80 applicants instead of the 10 or 5 or whatever. We want 80 kids to want to be able to do that. So then now we can come back and say, okay, now we got 80 kids. We're going to go and we're going to raise more money. We're going to do more of this. We're going to do more of that to get more kids in there, because the kids are really the future of our sport.
Yeah.
Whether they're going to be a guide or there's going to be an outdoorsman or, a recreation or whatever, if they don't become a guide and we get them hooked on it now, 9 times out of 10 down the road, they're going to be hiring a guide to keep them employed, and that stuff going down through. So it's a whole chain of events there. And the Guides Education Fund, honestly, is a special thing that I think gets taken for granted. And there's a lot of people that don't realize that it's there and that it's for the access. Chris, the treasurer, I sat down and we did a podcast last night and we talked about it a little bit there. And he took and sent me a text message this morning. We had two more grants or applications, whatever you want to call it, come in yesterday. He got them in the mail this morning when we got home. He just sent, I think it was two more checks out for these camps. I mean, now it's getting last minute, but those were picked up from the moose slaughter.
Oh, really?
You know, from
Yeah.
us being there, and
Yeah.
we had T-shirts made up that said Maine Guys Education Fund. We're working on the new website, like all that stuff there.
Yeah.
And just to see these handwritten letters from the kids that come in and say why they want to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it might not mean much to most people, but like Chris sends me a picture of everyone now, and like to read them, it's hysterical
Yeah.
because like you can tell it's coming from the kid. It ain't coming from the parents. Like the kids actually want to go and do this, and it's nice to see.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like I've said many times here today, it's a great thing to have on your resume. Mm-hmm. I think it's equal to a college degree as far as I'm concerned.
Sometimes it's, I don't say more valuable, but it really is. I mean, the difference between a college degree and your guide's license, like if you have your guide's license and you actually come by it as a guide, that right there shows most people you've been through the school of hard knocks. You screwed up more. You're wood smart. You might not be book smart, but when it comes to everyday life and everyday stuff that you take and do, you've excelled at that to get to where you are. Yeah. I mean, college, they teach you how to read books and how to take tests off from books, and they prep you for the real world. Well, guiding is the real world.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
You know, some of the best guides I know might not be able to read or do math that well. It's a lot of the old time guides, the fishing guides, like up north and that stuff, they can't even swim. But guess what? They were probably one of the best canoe fishing guides there was.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've heard Hal and a bunch of other guys from Jackman tell stories about these guys that are 70 years old and guided the whole life fishing. They don't know how to swim. And they say something, well, what do you mean you don't know how to swim? I never flipped a canoe. I don't have to worry about it. I'm not going to swim.
Yeah.
You know, like stuff like that, like that's where that guide's license holds that badge of honor, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So.
But, well, you got any more interesting stories that you'd like to share? You got to have some in there, Steve.
I've got a kind of a touching story about. Oh, yeah, okay. One of my mentors was a guide by the name of Val Moore, who was the quintessential Maine guide, Grand Lake native. His brother, Pop Moore, built my canoe, Grand Lake Stream canoe. But Val was the ultimate guide. He guided when famous people came here, they put Val in his canoe. Had an 8th grade education, just like you're talking about, but took guiding very seriously. And he would have these marvelous parties back in the old days that would show up for 3 weeks. This is the old school of fishing up here. And the people that did that would often be very fussy about their guides. So Val was the head guide, and they were looking for somebody to go with him on a kind of a repeating basis. And they apprenticed kind of auditioned a couple, and one of them was me. And I went with this family who was from Philadelphia called the Gibbons family. And they said, this kid's all right. And so fortunately I got to go with Val for many years with this family that kept coming. I think at the end it was almost 50 years in a row. And the patriarch of the family, his name was Steve Gibbons. And he kept a journal which was fascinating of every day, temperature, number of fish caught, hooked, he had a comment about everything for all these years. And he left it with me one winter, and I should have scanned it. I didn't. But we went for many years like this, and they were such a great family, they let my daughters come with me on a couple days to see what it was like to be a Maine guide. And we had cookouts, and we fished every lake in this country. Well, it turns out that for 2 weeks every year he was here for over 50 years. So at the time he had actually fished here more than I had, and Val was his guide every day, every time. I mean, we'd switch around and stuff, but Val was the man. And so towards the 50th year, he said, I want to have a meeting. We were here fishing, and the family was here. He said, we have to have a discussion. And I said, oh boy. So we got together at my house, Val, Steve Gibbons, his wife, and myself. And he says, I want you to know that I have had the first signs of Alzheimer's have showed up. And I'm going to come here as much as I can till the very end. And this is important, but I want you're going to see this. So he said, I've been diagnosed, but I want to keep coming here. I just want you to know that sometimes you'll see things. And Val was, not current with disease and their complications and stuff, but he said, fine, we'll fine. I'm not sure he actually knew what it was, but so he kept coming. And then about the third year in, Val came to me and said, I'm going to knock that son of a bitch out of the canoe. I said, why? I said, well, he's being mean to his wife. I said, Val, that's part of it. That's part of the diagnosis. He's not mean. Ain't no need of it. And he couldn't understand, the fact that his client of 50-some years was being mean to his wife, who he knew he loved dearly. And I tried to explain it to him. I'm not sure it got through. Well, they stopped coming. And they had means, so he moved into a progressive care facility and became in the end stages of Alzheimer's. And his wife Ann would spend every day with him, and he would not say a word. He was on his way out, and we stayed in touch. Of course, they stopped coming, and then she said, one day he sat up and he looked around. And he said, where's Val? And he laid back down and passed. So he was fishing with his Maine guide friend. I'm sorry, I got a little...
Oh, no, I ain't gonna lie, you gave me goosebumps. I knew roughly where that story was going, and you had me right there, too.
Yeah, and shortly after that, Val was no longer with us either. But that was, he was one of the people you were talking about, 8th grade education, but just loved being with people and showing them and fishing with people. So,
yeah, no, it's incredible to hear stories like that, and like just that's the stuff that people need to hear. Like even some of the guides right now that are guiding, or they aren't guiding, they get a guide's license to hear this stuff and realize that there's more behind having the patch or that piece of paper. Like, it's your people skills. It's how you go about it. And if you have to force yourself to do it, you're never going to get them personal relationships with your clients that turn into something like that.
Well, this is a side story to the Gibbons family. They had kids and grandkids. As often happens, they didn't carry on the tradition of coming here. And so I would say 3 years ago, I get a call from one of the lodges that says, somebody wants to go on a boat ride. They want to fish a little bit, October. I said, great, I'll do it. So that's all I heard. And I meet them, and Jesus, something. And, they got in the boat, and we started up lake, and they said, I'm Steve Gibbons' daughter. And I knew I had recognized her. I had guided her. And I stopped the boat because they're a big part of my life.
Yeah.
And I started bawling right here in the middle of Grand Lake, right about there by that buoy. And I said, I had no idea. I said, I haven't heard from you. I am so glad you're here. And we went to all the old spots we used to lunch and fish. And they took pictures and reminisced. And they showed me pictures of me guiding them. And she caught a beautiful salmon to cap it all off. And so... And then they ended up donating to the land trust because of what I showed them and what we did.
That's awesome.
So that carried on, but they weren't the fishermen that he was. But still, they never forgot it. Obviously.
Did they remember you? Like, did they?
They asked for me, but the lodge owner never told me. I had no.
Oh,
preface.
so they knew what they were doing.
Yes,
but
they did.
They trying to surprise you, more or less.
Their son, the grandchildren that I guided, they said, I wonder if Steve's still around. And he got on the internet and said, yeah, he's listed, he's guiding, he's still around, ask for him. Well, the lodge owner never thought to tell me that. So I didn't, they were older, but when she told me that, it just hit me like a tidal wave.
Yeah.
I said, I've been wondering where you've been and, how life was and all that. So It's
That's amazing. I'm glad that you got to witness that all come like full circle around, and and be there for that and for them, and like to be the one to bring them back and show them where their father was, and
yeah,
all this
yeah,
stuff, like where everything happened, because like whether they were into the fishing as much as he was not, I guarantee you that still meant the world to them to have the same guy that brought him out fishing and
yeah,
show him
yeah,
around brought them back however many years later,
yeah.
you know, and do it. But so I got one last question for you, Steve. And we've talked about Grand Lakers for the last 2 days down here, but no one has actually said what a Grand Laker is.
It's a square stern, 20-foot plus canoe. I prefer to call them Grand Lake Stream canoes. That identifies that they're made in Grand Lake Stream.
Mm-hmm.
Grand Laker is an old town. They've been made in Cupsuctic and places like that. There's people that have made Grand Lakers, and they call them Grand Lakers. The Grand Lake Stream canoe is made here in town.
Okay.
That's my definition.
Mm-hmm.
It's not official, but and they're made mostly with native woods, with the exception of mahogany seems to be a popular trim
Yep.
they use on it. They're 20 feet long. Mine was built in 1988. It was built by Pop Moore, who was Val Moore's brother. It was the last canoe he made before he got Alzheimer's, and it's the only thing I've ever taken care of in my life. So it's been in a garage for all these years, and I'm still using it to this day. It's a work of art. What Dale has done is adapted the Grand Lake Stream canoe to the four-stroke engine, which is heavier. So he's adapted, and if Pop was around, he probably would do the same thing, because we all had two strokes back at the time that were 50 pounds. These are now 90-pound engines, and he's just beefed up the stern a little bit. But they're made here in Grand Lake Stream, and they're beautiful to fish out of. They take a hell of a load. They're like a freighter. They cut through the water. You can paddle them efficiently for shoreline fishing. They draw nothing, right? So you can get into places you never dreamed of. And they're trailerable. So they're just a terrific fishing craft. And custom made right here in Grand Lake Stream.
It's amazing. I don't know if you go on Facebook or whatever there, but I have one of Dale's canoes that he built, I think, 3 years ago. And I use it up in the Allagash, guiding on the St. John River, the Little Black River, the Big Black River, fishing for muskie and that stuff. And, like, it's amazing to have because it's long. I got a little 8-horse four-stroke on it, and I can motor along, go through the rapids, and, that stuff. And like you said, don't take hardly any for water.
Right.
They're a very versatile
Right.
canoe, and, to me, it meant something to, like, have one of Dale's canoes or a canoe that's from down here. And
That's a Grand Lake Stream
Grand
canoe.
Lake Stream canoe that's handmade, and he made it right in his shop there.
Yeah.
To be able to put it up in Allagash and be on the rivers, the remote ponds, and that stuff back there. And
Yeah.
like I called Dale, it was this spring. I called him up. I said, Dale, has you ever had anybody say they've guided muskie fishermen out of a canoe that you made? He's like, I can't say that I have. I said, well, we put 19 in this one in the last 2 days.
Really?
He's like, well, now I can say I have. I'm like, yeah. It's like, and you look at it and like just to see that spread out all around. I mean, they're all like muskies are regional fish. They only have them in northern Maine because of the St. Francis River, and they come down into the contributaries. But like to be able to have a piece of history, whether it was made here, handmade. Dale pounded every nail into that to bring it up there, and now start creating history with it up there. I mean, with the clients we've had from Alabama and all around that I've guided out of that canoe, like to me, that's like, and by them talking, the pictures they take, they're fascinated by that canoe.
Yeah.
They're like, where do you buy this? And I'm like, well, it's handmade. Every one of these tacks, every one of these brads, and everything you see in here, that's all hand pounded. Like everything's done by hand. They're like, so this isn't like manufactured in a big warehouse. I'm like, no, like if you actually see the inside of the shop, like you would look and be like, there's no way those canoes come out of that.
Yeah.
Like there's a little potbelly wood stove in there, and like just how they do it is like the old school way of doing things. And with the fascination, like from that, and by talking, to everybody down here, I'm hoping that like this winter we're going to come down and be able to sit with Dale, with Nate Bacon, with all these other guys that do this, and interview them and like get some of the process behind it, put together a little bit of a video to show the people out there that these are as true as you're gonna get to a handmade, homemade canoe anymore.
Yeah, Dale's an amazing. You wouldn't think it. You look at him, that voice, his hands are half the size of this table. You wouldn't think he'd be able to. He's an artist.
He is, and that's like,
He doesn't want to admit it, but
I told him that yesterday. I said, Dale, you're being so modest. Like that is a pure piece of art. Like
So-
you look at like in mine, it's mahogany around the bow and the trim and all that stuff, and like the joints, the splices, like everything. Like unless you actually look for it, you're not gonna see it. Like everything is beautiful.
So I'll tell you one more story. It involves the pandemic, and of course, in May, nobody was allowed to stay overnight anywhere in Maine. So our Memorial Day was shot. But I went out and fished the stream. There were 2 people on the stream, me and the guy that owns Weatherby's, and the fish were in. They were thick, and it was. So I did some fishing. Then I said, "What the hell? I might as well, make the most of it." In June, Maine residents were allowed to stay overnight. So a big crew from southern Maine who had planned trips to Russia and New Zealand and all that, they couldn't go. They said, "We're going to go up to Grand Lake Stream, and we're going to." Do you remember that there was like a nationwide movement? If you have a guide, send them a few bucks to keep them going. We're going to Grand Lake Stream, and they each hired an individual guide. They didn't put 2 in a canoe because they wanted to. They said, "We're going to try to make their June as pleasant as possible," and they showed up. And we each had a person in our canoe. And mine was a great sport by the name of Paul Skydell, who still comes here to this day. But he had all his fishing gear was in his Manhattan apartment. Nope, he went up to the Orvis shop, bought all new. He hired me instead of 2 people, just him, his solo guide, which is great for fly fishing. We had a great time. And he went and shopped for a canoe. And he interviewed all the canoe makers in town, and he asked me my opinion. As I'm not going to, because it's like Ford, Chevy, Dodge. It's your deal. I was rooting for Dale secretly, and so he ended up buying a Dale Toby canoe and a trailer during that 5-day span. And our last day was spent at Third Lake. And he was going to head down from there and not come back to Grand Lake. And so we each had our own vehicle. And this was during the height of the pandemic, and everybody's panicking and everything. So he handed me some money. And he said, "Last night, I washed it in detergent, bleached it, hung it up on a clothesline, started a wood fire, and dried this." He said, "This is the first and only time I've laundered money." And he left, leaving behind $25,000 in Grand Lake Stream.
See, that's what it's all
During
about.
the height of and he knew we needed that. We needed it emotionally, we needed it financially.
Yep.
And he was one of like 6 or 8 people that just did that. And that's what they thought of our industry and our predicament. So
If we don't keep these little rural towns alive like this and don't have that, they're going to vanish. And once they vanish, they never come back.
yeah. So
That's good.
yeah.
Well, we talked about a lot of stuff, a lot of interesting stuff. I mean, and I'd like to thank you, Steve, for coming on and doing this with me and agreeing to sit down. It was fun. I enjoyed it, and I'm sure everyone else is going to enjoy it.
Well, I hope so.
Hey, whether they do or not, it's out there, right? So
Well,
that's them.
it's on the record now, right?
Yeah, it's on the record now.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, thank you, Steve, and thanks everyone for watching another episode of Through the Eyes of a Maine Guide with your host Brennan Lane, and today our special guest was Steve Schaefer. Until next time, hit subscribe, follow along, and make some memories of your own.